Okay, stop scrolling, because what just happened in Daredevil, Born Again Season 2 is the kind of thing that comic book fans have been waiting nearly a decade to see. Matt Murdock, the blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen, stood up in a courtroom, threw his cane across the room, watched it bounce off three surfaces and snap back into his hand like a billy club, and said the words out loud. He said, "I am Daredevil." And just like that, 11 years of a secret identity gone, in one move. Now I need you to understand something before we go any further. This is not just a cool TV moment. This is a structural earthquake for the MCU. Because unlike Tony Stark when he said, "I am Iron Man," and then went home to his mansion, Matt Murdock said those words and got arrested. He is now sitting in a prison cell. The hero goes to jail, the villain goes to a beach, and the MCU's street-level universe has never looked more interesting. Let's break all of it down. So for context, the entire Season 2 has been building toward one thing. Wilson Fisk had turned himself into the mayor of New York City. He had a task force hunting vigilantes. He had judges on his payroll. He had the whole system wired in his favor. And Karen Page, journalist, Matt's on-and-off partner in every sense of the word, got dragged into his corrupt tribunal as a legal target. Matt Murdock does what Matt Murdock does. He walks into that courtroom as her lawyer. He calls Mayor Fisk himself to the stand. And then, when the judges, who are clearly terrified of Fisk and completely in his pockets, start ruling against him anyway, Matt realizes something. He is losing. The law is not going to save Karen. The system is broken. So he blows it up himself. He throws his cane, it ricochets. He catches it. And in front of rolling cameras, in front of everyone, he tells the world that he is the devil of Hell's Kitchen. He was on that ship. He saw the illegal weapons. He is the witness that Fisk cannot argue away. It works. Karen goes free. Fisk gets exposed. The governor starts removal proceedings. New Yorkers flood the courthouse in red. But here is the thing that makes this story genuinely great instead of just great TV. Matt does not walk away a free hero. He legally confessed to being a vigilante. He gets disbarred. He gets arrested. Season 2 ends with Matt Murdock in a prison cell. The villain ends the season alone on a beach somewhere free. The hero ends it in handcuffs. That is storytelling. What is also fascinating is what happened next in the comics. Wade moved Matt to San Francisco, where he operated publicly as Daredevil. And then eventually, in Volume 5 written by Charles Soule, Matt got his secret identity back, with help from a group of characters called the Purple Children, who essentially made the world forget. Charlie Cox actually referenced this in interviews. When he found out this was happening, he said, "You can't put that genie back in the box unless you plan on using the Purple Man's children." He knows the comics, the writers know the comics, and that is a breadcrumb, not just a throwaway line. There's also the Ed Brubaker run, The Devil in Cell Block D, where Daredevil ends up in Rikers Island prison surrounded by every criminal he ever put away as both a lawyer and a vigilante. That is an insane dramatic setup, and based on where Season 2 leaves Matt, that storyline is absolutely being set up for Season 3. Let's talk about what this actually does to Matt Murdock as a character going forward. He cannot be a lawyer anymore. That chapter is closed. He is behind bars. He is in a facility full of people who have personal reasons to want him dead. Connor Powell, who has been quietly building a revenge arc, is eyeing him from across the room at the end of the season. And on top of all of that, the world now knows his face, his home address, his daily routine, his vulnerabilities. Charlie Cox spoke about this in a way that really stuck with me. He talked about how the finale epitomizes who Matt is. Matt is always fighting for a better version of the world and, more specifically, a better version of the people in it. He believes that if people could just access the better version of themselves more often, everything would improve. And what is fascinating is that this reveal actually reflects that belief. Matt chose to stop hiding. He chose to absorb the consequences himself rather than keep operating in the shadows. That is not just heroic, that is philosophy in action. The question for Season 3 is, who is Matt Murdock now that the two halves of his life have crashed into each other? Showrunner Dario Scardapane and Brad Winderbaum from Marvel confirmed that Season 3 will have a time jump of roughly 1 year, similar to the real-world gap between seasons. Matt in prison for a year, surrounded by enemies with no law license and no mask. That is going to be a very different kind of Daredevil story. Now let's talk about the people around Matt, because this story does not stop being interesting just because Matt is locked up. Karen Page, Deborah Ann Woll absolutely delivered this season. and the way she broke down Karen's reaction to Matt's reveal in interviews tells you everything about how this character works. Karen made a point of clarifying something important. Yes, Matt revealed himself partly to save her, but she does not want credit for that to land on her personally. Matt did it to win. He did it to take down Fisk. The fact that it also saved Karen was real, but it was not the only goal, and Karen knows that. She knows Matt well enough to know that he would only blow up his own life for something bigger than one person. And Karen's plan going forward, she keeps fighting, she works the system, she looks for truth, she believes Matt is not a criminal regardless of what the law says. That is not naive, that is the definition of what Karen Page has always been. Now Wilson Fisk ends the season alone on a beach. He renounced his citizenship. He left New York. He is out there somewhere, stripped of power, stripped of Vanessa's memory being his anchor in the city. Here is the comic context that matters. Ed Brubaker also wrote a storyline called Return of the King, where Fisk goes into exile, lands in Spain, tries to build a quiet life, and then the Hand shows up and destroys it. That pulls him back into conflict, stronger and more dangerous than ever. Season 3 is literally setting that up. Spider-Man, Brand New Day, arriving July 30th, already confirms that the Hand is back as a major antagonistic force in the MCU. Those threads are being pulled together deliberately. And one more thing about Fisk's side of the board. Heather Glenn, Matt's ex, picks up the Muse mask at the end of Season 2. She is becoming the new Muse. That is not a throwaway moment. That is a Season 3 villain being built in real time. Alright, let's talk about what might actually be the biggest piece of news in all of this. Because Season 3 is not just going to be about Matt in prison. It is going to be a full Defenders reunion. Set photos that leaked in April 2026 confirmed it. Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones, Mike Colter as Luke Cage, and Finn Jones returning as Danny Rand, also known as Iron Fist. Mike Colter himself posted the photo. Finn Jones replied and said the cat was out of the bag. All three of them together on set for Season 3. The last time we saw those three characters together with Daredevil was 2017. That is 9 years. And the fact that they are coming back specifically when Matt is in prison is incredibly deliberate. In the comics, when Matt went to Rikers Island, Danny Rand actually took on the Daredevil mantle temporarily to cover for him. If Season 3 goes that direction, and the setup makes it almost impossible not to, we could be looking at one of the most ambitious Marvel television storylines ever attempted. Think about what this does for the MCU's street-level corner. Matt is locked up, Hell's Kitchen has no devil, and three of the most capable heroes in the city suddenly need to step into that gap. Jessica Jones with her unmatched investigative instincts. Luke Cage, who in the comics eventually became the mayor of New York City after Fisk's fall, and let's be honest, Season 2 is basically adapting the Devil's Reign storyline that leads directly to that. Danny Rand, who may or may not still have the Iron Fist power at this point. This is not a team-up for a crossover cameo. This is the foundation of an entirely new chapter. Now there is one massive question hanging in the air that nobody can quite answer yet. How does Spider-Man, Brand New Day fit into all of this? Matt Murdock is in prison. Brand New Day is releasing July 30th, and the MCU timeline puts Brand New Day after the events of Born Again Season 2. The teaser trailer for Brand New Day already spoiled one thing. New York has a new mayor, not Fisk. Sheila Rivera, played by Sabrina Guevara, is seen giving Spider-Man the key to the city. So the political aftermath of Season 2 is already baked into the movie. But what about Matt himself? Charlie Cox was asked directly whether it would be tricky to team up with Spider-Man given that Matt is currently incarcerated. Cox said, and this is a direct quote, "It is tricky," very deliberately vague, which in Marvel speak means something is absolutely being worked around. The Punisher is also coming back. John Bernthal's Frank Castle returns in a special presentation called The Punisher, One Last Kill, dropping May 12th. And Punisher is confirmed to appear in Brand New Day as well, so the street-level universe is all converging at once. Okay, let me take a breath from the plot mechanics for a second and talk about something that Dario Scardapane said in an interview that I found genuinely interesting. When asked about Matt and Karen's future, the showrunner said something that cuts right to the heart of their dynamic. He posed the question, are they meant to be together, or do they love the drama of being together? Are they a great couple, or are they a great story? That is a really honest thing for a writer to say about characters he clearly loves. And then he added this, I am a Karen and Frank fan, meaning the Karen Page and Frank Castle triangle is something he wants to explore more deeply. John Bernthal was not in Born Again Season 2, but with Punisher, One last kill coming and Frank confirmed for brand new day. The groundwork is being laid for that triangle to actually happen on screen. Matt and Karen have incredible chemistry and genuine emotional history, but they keep saving the city instead of saving each other. And the question of whether two people defined by their commitment to something larger than themselves can ever actually choose each other, that is a story worth telling. So let me bring this all together. Season 2 of Daredevil Born Again ended by doing something genuinely brave. It did not give the hero a clean win. It gave him a Pyrrhic victory, the kind where you defeat your enemy and lose yourself in the same moment. Matt Murdock saved New York, he saved Karen, he took down Fisk, and he is now in a prison cell with a target on his back. Fisk is sunbathing on a beach somewhere, quietly plotting his return because that is what Fisk does. Hell's Kitchen has no Daredevil, and into that gap come Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Danny Rand, the Defenders, finally back together, while Heather Glenn puts on the Muse mask and becomes something dangerous, and Bullseye aligns himself with a new criminal architect. Season 3 is filming right now. It is expected in March 2027. And based on everything we know, the comic arcs being adapted, the characters confirmed, the breadcrumbs being left in plain sight, it is going to be the biggest Daredevil story the MCU has ever attempted. This show has earned it. Born Again Season 2 proved that street-level Marvel, when handled with actual care and intelligence, hits differently than any Infinity War-level event. This is about people. It is about a city. And it is about what it costs to keep fighting for something when the fight keeps asking for more than you thought you had. Matt Murdock paid everything in that courtroom. The question for Season 3 is what he builds back from nothing. That is a story I will be watching every single week. If you are new here, I cover Marvel deep dives like this every time something major drops. Subscribe if you want to be first when the Season 3 trailers hit. And drop a comment below, do you think Danny Rand is going to wear the Daredevil suit? Because I am about 80% convinced that is happening. Let me know where you land on that. See you on the next one.